U.S. Capitol Police Officer William Billy Evans. He joined the force in March of 2003, an 18-year veteran. There was a procession from George Washington University Hospital to the medical examiner's office. Many of them are asking themselves, how can this happen again when they think about what occurred on January 6th during the insurrection?
There has been another terrorist attack on Capitol Hill, and the culprit was a 25-year-old man. It's always a man. But I don't think Donald Trump will be getting the blame this time, because this particular terrorist is a black separatist and a follower of the Nation of Islam. So some people are breathing a sigh of relief that they're off the hook. And once again, it's the religion of peace that is to blame for this particular attack. However, I did make the point that for the vast majority of mainstream Muslims, the Nation of Islam is actually a deviant sect and falls outside the fold of Islam. So probably for the majority of Muslims, followers of the Nation of Islam are actually unbelievers, you could say, for want of a better word, but certainly they're not accepted as mainstream Muslims. But then again, on the other hand, when a terrorist group such as IS carry out an atrocity, maybe the majority of Muslims around the world don't consider them to be within the fold of Islam, and certainly the followers of IS consider the vast majority of mainstream normal Muslims to be deviant, to be non-Muslims, and the majority of victims of IS terrorism have been other normal everyday Muslims. So there's a lot of finger pointing that goes on when a certain member of a certain ethnicity or religion or identity group commits a particular atrocity. And I've spoken before about ISIS style terror attacks, and this car ramming tactic is something that they have used a lot and encouraged their followers to carry out. So this particular attack, carried out by 25-year-old Noah Green, follower of the Nation of Islam, apparently, it was a car ramming attack, and in the end he wound up stabbing and murdering an officer with a knife. It does fit the characteristics of an IS attack, but because he's a self-proclaimed follower of the Nation of Islam and the Honourable Elijah Muhammed and possibly Louis Farrakhan, maybe he got into following IS later in life. We don't know. But because he's a black man and presumably a black separatist, we're jumping to conclusions, aren't we? That this must have been the reason that he carried out this horrific terrorist attack. And I'm assuming it was a terrorist attack, because if you carry out an attack on the nation's Capitol building, you're wanting to see political change. And the fact that he's subscribed to such an extreme ideology and he's propagated it online, we put two and two together and we've probably got four. That's probably the reason why he carried out this attack. But we mustn't run the risk of saying Louis Farrakhan is to blame. I don't think that all Nation of Islam followers are extremists. I think it's possible to be a black separatist without being a black supremacist. But if you are a black separatist who carries out a horrific murder and what would seem to be a terrorist attack, then we can be fairly confident in concluding that you did that because of your black separatist ideology, and you probably are a black supremacist. And this particular terrorist was killed in the attack. The police killed him whilst apprehending him, and we have to wonder, had he been a white supremacist, would he still be alive? Bishop Talbot Swan pointed out on Twitter, I see the white supremacists are overjoyed to report that the suspect in the Capitol incident was a black man, Noah Green. Green, allegedly armed with a knife, was shot dead. By contrast, Robert Aaron Long, the Atlanta Spa murderer, was armed with an AR-15. He's alive and well. So is it the case that when black supremacists carry out terrorist attacks, they get taken home in a body bag, and when white supremacists do the same thing, they get taken for a Burger King? I'm not sure. Was it Burger King? I can't remember. The other discrepancy we could bring up is perhaps when white supremacists do something like this, they get a lot more publicity. Now, I know it's bad publicity, but some people say there's no such thing as bad publicity. But the Capitol Hill terror attack carried out by the Trump supporters when the election was stolen / didn't go their way was much more widely publicised than this murder and terror attack by Noah Green. It's certainly not hit the headlines in the same way. So is that another discrepancy? And why would that be? Does it not fit a certain narrative, a certain agenda? Had it been a white man who rammed a car into Capitol Hill and murdered a police officer for whatever reason, do you think you would have heard the story mentioned more often in the mainstream media? Answer that question for me honestly. I think you would have. What's the reason for that? I wonder. And had he been a white man, would he have been more likely to be taken in alive in handcuffs? Have a think about that as well. And of course, his social media page has been removed straight away, but he had recently posted on his Facebook account that he had been unemployed and facing fear, hunger, and loss of wealth. The messages were captured by the site intelligence group, which monitors jihadist media and tracks online activity. So maybe it's not a terrorist attack at all. Maybe there was no ideological reason behind it. But then if you're going to do that sort of thing, why would you choose such a high profile and political landmark? But he did say he was facing fear, hunger, and loss of wealth. And these are all contributing factors. And again, whenever I mention terrorism, we do have to mention mental illness. But race is a factor again. Had it been a white man, would we be hearing that he was mentally ill and suffering with depression? Or would we be focusing more on his ideology and the fact that he was subscribed to some extremist ideology? Let me know what you think. Are the police fair when it comes to race and the way in which they deal with terror incidents? And are the media, the mainstream media, fair when it comes to their portrayal of these stories in the press and online?